So let's talk about the total revenue since inception for your business. I don't know if you track it to the penny, but if you can give us a general idea of how much your organization has generated, that would be great.
Probably about 150,000 ish if I was to add up everything.
Hey everyone, Oz Konar here with Business Lending Blueprint. So we have another session here with one of our amazing members, Sally. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Oz?
Good, man. So let's do this. Let's do a quick intro. Tell me about your business name, and how people can get a hold of you if they're interested in getting funding through you or they're interested in working with you.
So, name of the business is Sal's Capital. They can reach me at salscapital.net.
So let's talk about your adventure here through the Blueprint and business loan brokerage. So I know your background is in car sales, the last, I guess, official job.
Yeah.
Then you noticed that you don't want to have a job and you became a business loan broker. So let's talk about that. What was going through your mind, and why do we have you here?
As I was working my job, I realized I didn't want to retire in working in car sales as a finance manager. I, started looking at the reports, and I noticed at the reports that on average, just with my sales alone, I was making the company a little over $600,000 a year. I was getting compensated total, I think was maybe 130,000 a year.
Wow.
Of that. And that was after busting my hump from, sun up past sundown, working usually about 10 to 12, sometimes 13 hours a day, almost every day. So I realized there's got to be a better way than this. And, I kind of understood financing. So I said, let's look into Business Blueprint. And that's how I jumped on.
I see. That's cool. And then since then, you're doing this full time, right?
Full time. Yep. I said, hey, if I'm going to jump in, I got to jump in with 2 feet.
So you have no background in lending, alternative lending industry, or not really
Didn't
familiar?
even know alternative lending was a thing until I got introduced by you.
What kind of products do you offer to your customers right now? If you could do a quick rundown, like who do you usually help and what do you help them with?
Products and the types of customers. So I help startups get funding. I deal with I deal with small and mid-sized businesses. Pretty much nobody that can come this way that doesn't at least can get offered something. So in other words, I do credit repair. If a customer wants to sell their business, they can get funding from me. Or at least they can get in touch with some of the investors I work with. If somebody wants, just normal merchant cash advance, I work with some lenders that have some very, very low criteria, money wise and otherwise, to be able to get people funded. Working capital, equipment financing, you name it. Of course, obviously, like I mentioned, credit repair is a big thing, because if you know how to use it right, you can definitely help out a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess to sum up all the options, anyone who wants to start a business pre-revenue, all the way to somebody who's trying to exit their business, and anything in between, you can help with the funding options, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That provides full coverage, where you can't really do that in banking and business, formal business lending industry, because they're just, a lot of red tape and regulations and so much paperwork that needs to be taken back and forth at the end to end with a non-approved deal. Whereas here, obviously, not everyone is going to be a good fit either way, but the odds of you helping somebody and funding, I always say the limit is the broker's capacity. How well that they know each product, right? You can help somebody with at least one of those. That's the beauty of this. And then we see many people, and I was interviewing Brandy the other day, over time niche down into certain industries. We have a lot of people who work on real estate deals. We have others who are generalists. We have others who focus on certain industries, from construction to dental to medical and anything in between, pretty much. So it is up to the broker how they want to design this business and take it beyond the blueprint, right? That's very, very important. I know you recently filled out the form to get your GUNG, and that's on its way. That's congratulations. That's a massive milestone.
Can't wait to start going in that bell and start harassing everybody in the house with how many times I'm using it.
With the deals that you're working on, you'll be hitting a couple of pretty often. That's awesome. So you started out with pretty much nothing, no prior knowledge, and now you're building your lending empire, and you currently do have employees too, right?
I do, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's touch on that a little bit. So you have, I know a lot about your business because you're not just in the blueprint, you're also in my mastermind. So we spend a lot of in a small group type of meeting, and we chat the similar way that we're doing right now through Zooms. That's why I'm very familiar with the business that you're running. So you have somebody on your team that books a ton of appointments for you, right? Qualified appointments. Let's talk about that. So how many appointments do you usually go through a week?
A week? Anywhere between probably 25 to 35 a week.
Wow, that's massive.
Yeah.
So the business owners are looking to have a meeting with you because they need access to capital, some kind of funding, right?
Exactly. Yep.
That's massive because we get a lot of questions on, hey, does lead generation work? How do I do lead generation? How many leads? I think a few weeks ago you were asking me, hey, Oz, I got too many appointments. What do I do? Do I hire a salesperson? I'm going to burn out soon because I just have a ton of people to talk to and I don't have enough time, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a good problem to have. Then we strategized and we went through the process of eliminating the lesser quality leads and focusing on the better quality leads instead of immediately going and hiring, because that's a strategic decision. A lot of people just want to go through mass hiring, right? I remember a time that you kind of try that a little bit on your own, and
actually, I was just about to mention that. So I started getting a lot more leads, and things are working out well. And I said, hey, you know what? I have all these leads. Let me hire some people. So I hired 3 VAs and another salesperson. So overall, it ended up actually not really working out for anybody. I ended up having to consolidate down. And the main issue I ran into, like you had mentioned, was the quality issue. Mm-hmm. So my VAs were doing well at doing certain tasks, but it wasn't cohesive. So a lot of them didn't really have consistent tasks that they were doing every day. And it was hard to keep up with the pulse of the business to see what needed to be more focused on than other things. Mm-hmm. And then also the salesperson, it didn't work out as well because, like you mentioned, as far as the quality of leads, I wasn't screening anything for quality. So what ended up happening is that the salesperson ended up not really working out because he was just calling a whole bunch of bad quality leads. So I went from, I think, 3-4 employees down to just 1. And it's actually worked out a heck of a lot better because the communication is consistent, and overall, just we've had a ton more success because keeping track of the pulse of business is a lot easier. So, the growing strategically is better than just growing, as fast as you can and whatever. So I understand both worlds, but for right now, what's working best is growing strategically and then eventually really expanding on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, initially having a lean structure is really, really important. And that requires you to hire the right people, right? That's really, really important. Otherwise, anyone can go and hire a bunch of people and make themselves feel like they're the boss and the king of the world and all that. But at the end of the day, how effective that is, because the goal of hiring somebody is to delegate the amount of tasks that you have. But if you don't have a proper hiring strategy, then you're delegating some tasks to them, then you find yourself in the position of trying to manage them. Well, then nothing has changed. Now you have a bunch of people who are doing the same task that you were doing. Now you're managing each one of their tasks. Then you kind of double the problem. And I think you and I were able to do that strategic adjustment. Now you ended up with one person who's capable of doing the job of probably 3-4 people, and the person understands you. that elevated your game really, really high. Now you're looking into a full calendar, and you can, if you want to, it's like turning on and off the faucet. If you want to lower that, you can do that. So
Right.
full control on the marketing end, right? So which is really, really powerful. That's something that I talk, as you know, great deal on our calls and in the blueprint as well. So you got to look at marketing as, hey, how do I fund a couple of deals? Well, no, that's, of course, everyone wants to do that. But the philosophy behind marketing, the way it should be handled is, how do I build a system that I control what happens? I control the throughput, right? So I control where the leads are coming from, how often they're coming from, the quality, and how to keep it consistent so you don't have the roller coaster. Because I like your adventure, because you've been through all of that. You had periods that you had a lot of leads and came down crashing. You had periods that you had leads, but you didn't even keep up with them. You couldn't keep up with them.
Right.
You had periods that you hired people. Now you're like, all right, so you see this as an organization with the right foundation that you're building, and it is doing a lot. And you yourself, I don't know how many people you talk to. Like, you talk to a lot of people every week. You come up with really unique lending situations that you're helping somebody, and that let you to develop strategic partnerships, like even beyond blueprint, that which I really admire, because you're constantly thinking of ways of, how do I help this person, which is the right attitude, than just, well, how do I make a lot of money? Because money follows doing the right thing and solving the problem for somebody, right?
Right. That's actually a really good point, because a lot of times, especially in this business, in the beginning, you think more like a salesman, which will only get you very little success. You have to think like a consultant. This person's coming to you with a problem, so how do you work to solve that problem? And it starts by actually listening to what their problem actually is, asking the right questions to fully understand what's going on, and then offering the solution at the end that works for them. And
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
it was, I mean, that's really what kind of like changed a lot of things for me. And I mean, I worked in sales before, and a lot of the same principles apply, but the biggest thing is where to apply them. And now I've learned, through a lot of trial and error, as you mentioned, that where to actually apply the skills that I've learned, and what new skills I can develop. Because any salesman that's seasoned will always tell you that they don't know everything, and that's one of the beauties of sales, is that you don't know everything. Your goal is to help as many people as possible, and you're always learning and expanding. And to make a point about what you mentioned about before, about structure, that was one of the biggest problems I'd ran into before. Was there was no, my organization, when I was trying to expand, didn't really have a real structure to it. And if you're working with other people, it has to have a solid structure, which is one of the biggest one of the biggest things that I think in the beginning I missed about the blueprint, was that I didn't have as solid a structure as I thought I did. I was like, oh, this seems pretty solid structure. Let's throw some people in there and let's make it work. It didn't work because the structure wasn't solid. There wasn't a consistent process that people could follow, and it ended up falling apart. So that's why that's one of the reasons it's really important to follow the structure of the blueprint, and to build that consistent marketing funnel that can be done almost with your eyes closed, so that especially when you go to expand, or even if you just plan to do it yourself, you know exactly where you are in the process with every customer.
Yeah, it gives you the peace of mind. I mean, you did. I mean, you nailed it. A lot of golden nuggets there that needs to be broken down into smaller pieces. Honestly, system is really, really important. You are somebody who's not doing this to make $5, $10, $15,000 a month. You're doing this to build a 7-figure organization. That's why, for anyone listening to this, they might think, well, what are they talking about? Like, organization, people, employees, all I want to do is like $10,000 a month. I understand that, but the principles are principles, right? If you have the right foundation in a relatively short amount of time, and Sally, correct me if I'm wrong, for you to go through this, your own way of trial and error, and build a business up to this point, normally would have taken maybe a few years, maybe more than that, right?
Way longer than that. Well, just put it this way: it would have taken me 5 years and probably at least $500,000 worth of mistakes to get to where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
I've calculated it out before, and
you
that's
did
roughly
calculate it. Okay.
That's roughly what it comes out to, is about 5 years and about $500,000 worth of mistakes. Also building the relationships, knowing who to reach out to, the time it takes to do that, the missed opportunities I would have from not already having those relationships in place. It comes out to roughly around, on a conservative end, about $500,000 that I would lose.
No, that's not inaccurate at all. I mean, people usually focus on what they invested and how much they lost, but they don't put a price tag on the time, right? So when you take something and give it a wider time, and you're working on something through trial and error, and let's say you're super persistent for 5 years, because most businesses will not even stand a chance in 5 years, they would give up at the end of year one. But let's assume that you stick through the whole thing. It's not just the $500,000 that you lose, you burn out quite a bit. And then your self-belief goes down, right? So you're not motivated enough to even build a damn thing anymore, because it's been 5 years. And I mean, when are you going to build it? It's been taking forever, right? So that's why I think shortening that curve for someone like you who's very driven, and from the get-go, I remember our very first mastermind meeting, you were actually walking. I don't know if you were jogging or walking. Like, hey, Oz, this is.
I was excited. I was pumped.
And I remember the first thing he said: "Listen, I'm not gonna rush through this. I want to build a strong foundation. I'm building a seven-figure organization. It's okay if I make mistakes, but I'm going to build a very strong organization." I'm like, wow, that's those words have a lot of power, and it's exactly what you're doing. So that was just you talking with no appointments, not much of understanding of the lending. Now you wake up to a full calendar of appointments, and you're the one deciding if you want to take that call or not, or qualify further, or even decide if you want to continue working on that deal, or focus that time on a deal that's just ready to fund right away, right? So that's a massive transformation in the lifespan of a business that would have normally taken, like we discussed, years and a ton of effort, and hopefully some persistency, and if anything is left in your body at that point, right?
No,
so let's talk about, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, adding to that, like another thing people don't consider is the cost of investment into the wrong things. So one thing that's part of where that figure comes from. But a lot of times, especially when you're starting a company like this, other brokers that I so happen to run into that haven't gone through the blueprint or anything like it, they just kind of like, they maybe worked in lending for a bank or something like that for a while, then they decided to be a loan broker. Those guys invest a lot of money into things that don't work. They don't have any idea what a consistent process would even look like. They're just kind of like making it up as they go. And the structure or the mindset that they're using is a large corporation that's already has, millions to spend on whatever. And they basically try and mimic that with a very small budget. This one, the way the blueprint is set up is that it takes you from, a single small ISO to a much larger organization if you want to take it there. And honestly, that I think is one of the biggest selling points. One of the things that, kind of keeps me driven is like, I'm so happy I don't have to spend money building relationships, going to, conferences that aren't really useful, going to network events that really don't really lead to anything. Instead, literally with this blueprint, it is a network event, especially like on Facebook and different things. The information that I'm gathering from there is way more useful than all the money that it would have spent for plane tickets, for hotels, for renting cars, for the actual tickets themselves, for the food that goes into that. All of that stuff tied into it is a lot of extra money, to when really something right here is just already set up for you. So all of that, like I said, it would have probably cost really more than $500,000. But like I said, I'm being conservative when I say that. 5 years and about $500,000 of mistakes. That's not even profit, just mistakes or wasted time actually building this business.
Yeah, that's so accurate. And I mean, right now, another thing you have is you're working from home while you're building an organization.
Oh yeah, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah. And that was the plan even before what we're going through right now. It's not because of the times that we're going through. You wanted to do that way anyways. And in the future, if you want to change the structure and have an office, that's certainly up to you.
Eventually, when I get to that point, I will have an office with, and expand out that way. But for right now, we gotta make sure we have a solid foundation that's consistent to follow. That's, no matter what. I mean, the way I have this business planned in the next 10 years, um, it's gonna be something. I'll tell you that.
I know that. I don't doubt that a bit. And because you are a long-term thinker and you're setting one brick at a time to grow this, because you're not just thinking about, oh, how do I make money today, which is important. I don't suggest anyone to neglect that. Obviously, you gotta, make sure that your stomach is full and you have a roof over your head and
Right.
you're growing the company. But I know that your philosophy is you're always investing into the business and always thinking, how do I expand this for the next year, 5 years, and 10 years? That's honestly how you build a business. Then you can exit out at some point, right? That's a sellable business, which I really admire in this industry, that when you have a strong customer base, when you have the processes in place and the right departments, it's not as difficult to exit out, because there are always players in fintech industry, which godlike money, and they can just
Right.
come in and buy any company who fits the bill. And one of the things they look at is the assets meaning not your furniture and whatnot, but the website, your social media channels and lead flow systems, the employees, and you're building them step by step, which is massive, and I truly do admire it. So let's talk about the total revenue since inception for your business. I don't know if you track it to the penny, but if you can give us a general idea of how much your organization has generated, that would be great.
Probably about 150,000 ish if I was to add up everything. Yeah.
And now that allowed you in less than a year to build a very comprehensive system that delivers over and over again. And next year, there's no reason you're not gonna.
Oh yeah. Then next year, actually, I anticipate, if not doubling, probably tripling that.
Yeah, which is very doable.
Especially more recently, like I've gotten some huge traction, a lot more traction than I've had before. So, and also I know a lot more about the industry. So overall, I'm going to, my projection is to expand probably at least double that.
Okay.
At least 100% growth.
Yeah, I always suggest put a 0 at the end.
1,000% growth. I mean, hey, I have no complaints about that one.
That's doable. So yeah, we can.
It is very doable for sure, and that's one thing I love about this industry is that the more I learn, the more money I make.
Right.
Whereas, like, if you look at me, I come from working in a corporate environment for the last almost 10 years. So the more I learned did not correlate to how much money I made. Instead, it was the more I learned, that's great, but it was more about basically who to suck up to in order to be able to get the right promotion. So this company, there's a direct correlation with how much you know and how much you've learned to how much money actually ends up going into your pocket.
Yeah, in corporate world, the more you know, the more of a problem you start becoming for the corporation, because they have a mold that they need you to fit into. And when you go above that, you start overflowing and you start talking and you start disliking certain things and you make noise. Like I've been through all of that. Then you become a target. They're like, I don't really like this guy. Well, he's a heavy hitter. It's like, yeah, I still don't like this guy, because you're kind of waking people up to what's really happening, right? And that becomes a problem. That's when you notice that, oh, I don't really belong here. That's okay if people belong there. Again, this is not bad mouthing anyone who wants to work and have a job. That's perfectly fine. But I think, we're not offering this opportunity to everyone. Honestly, it's not a good fit for everyone, for sure. So it's a good fit for someone who sees their value and they notice that they're getting paid they're getting underpaid way more than their own ability to succeed on their own as an entrepreneur. So if someone is on that ship, I highly suggest that they take a look at this opportunity as a way to grow, scale, however they want to do it, whether they want to make a few $1,000s a month on the side or build an organization like Sully is working on building right now. So what is one recommendation you would tell somebody, either who's in the blueprint and going through right now or who's considering joining?
So one recommendation that I have to anybody who, number one, is considering joining, let's say they're working in a corporate environment, I mean, working the good and bad about working in a corporate environment is that it's very comfortable. You know, they give you a lot of things to try and make, you know, perks to make you want to stay. But the bad is that you're always beholden unto them. You know, you're always anything that they want, you have to do regardless of whether you agree with it or not. So so a piece of advice that I would give to anybody that is working in the corporate world and is thinking about branching off on their own, do you really, I guess my advice is calculate out your actual worth.
Mm,
Like how just sit down and think about how much you're getting paid versus how much revenue you're actually generating for your company.
mhm.
And think about that, and think about if you had that revenue to use for yourself. I
Wow.
mean, in 1 year I made the company just on just my work alone, not even just like, you know, the people that worked under me or anything like that. Just my work alone, it was over $600,000
Yeah.
just by myself. And that was just 1 year. And I had been working there for 10 years. So do you understand? Like that's how much money that I could have had I just branched off and done my own. So that's something to think about if you are thinking about doing this. And the second thing for people that have, you know, let's say they joined and they aren't having like immediate success. I'm not that immediate success guy, but I am that long-term success guy. I'm the guy that doesn't quit, that always looks for a way forward. And, you know, it's usually not always, but it's usually those guys that end up, you know, the most successful because they've gone through the ups and downs and nothing can stop them at that point. They know how to manage and deal with all the problems that they face.
Mm,
Kudos to anybody that can make a ton of money right now because those guys are my heroes. But the other guy, but you know, me myself, I understand my capacity and I understand what I can do. And I'm the guy that's going to stick with it for a long time and make the type of wealth that you can't just, you know, lose all in one day.
yeah. Wow. Well, I don't have anything else to add to that. You kind of nailed it. So for both parties, anyone who's in there, anyone who's considering it, we're not forcing anybody into the blueprint. I actually do not want everybody in the blueprint, as I want to be kind of picky on who joins it for as a favor to them, right? So because we're not offering a get rich quick scheme, this is a system. And if anyone is interested in building wealth, growing a company of their own, building residual and repeat income, and they're serious about their success, and they're coachable, and they want to follow a system. I think, Sally, I mean, a lot of credit to you. You're a very coachable person. We discuss something, you don't try to fight it, right? You just write it down, you consider it, take action on it, and pivot if need be, or optimize it. So that's how you get away from constant trial and error without any direction. You know, so that's so major kudos to, and guys, anyone who's interested in working with Sally at any capacity, either you want him on your side as a business loan broker, or you're looking for funding and you need to get funding, his contact information will be in the description. But if you're interested in looking into what we offer in the blueprint, I mean, we only have one source. Everything is on our website. We try to keep it simple, businesslendingblueprint.com. So you see, we have a lot of free information in there. And we have a webinar for you to watch it, for you to check it out. But Sully, I like to thank you again, man. Appreciate it. It's a privilege to have you in my community. And
it's a lot of fun being here.
Thank you. Looking forward to still being, you know, side by side with you when you're celebrating your 10th year in this industry.
Yeah, you'll know when I'm celebrating my 10th year. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll tell you that.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.